Alright, what's going on, guys? So today we got, as titled by the video, an oil change on a 2022 Ford Escape with the 2-liter EcoBoost. This procedure will be pretty much the same for any oil change on this generation of Ford Escape. But first off, as you notice, we're going to have just some splash pans and stuff in the way. So this is my first time doing it on one of these, but we'll have to figure out how to get this splash pan off, and then at that point we'll show you the oil pan and the filter, and then where to go from there for the oil change. But if you haven't yet, your jack points are going to be kind of like right here for the larger puck, and then for an actual stand right here, any of these little cutouts, and then back here, and then back here, and then finally back there if you're using a 2-post lift. Alright guys, so it looks like we're going to have in total 14 of these 7mm bolts, screws, whatever you want to call them, but after all that, you should be able to get the splash pan right off, and we'll keep you updated as always. So at this point, with all of the bolts out, you can basically just slide this guy forward, and he's just kind of held in right here on this little lip, but you can just grab it from here, and then without splashing dirt all over your face, that is your splash pan. And then always good practice just to well, one, make sure that's just from the AC, but also you could just put your bolts that you use just on this so that way you don't lose them. But at that point we can reveal our entire engine. So this is going to be the oil pan, and this is going to be our drain bolt, the lowest end of the oil pan. This is our transmission. Don't touch this guy. I will make a video when this car is about 30,000. We'll do a video on how to change the fluid in this 8F35 transmission. Let's size up this drain bolt, and we'll let you know what it is. Also, good practice to check that you have the right oil filter. If you're using Motorcraft one like I am, make sure that you see the part number FL910S. And as you can see right here, I have the new one, and always give them a good shake. Make sure there's nothing loose rattling in the oil filters. That has happened in the past. I've seen some videos on, but just a quick check for peace of mind. Alright guys, so a 15mm socket is going to fit on there perfectly. So that's what we're going to use to get this off. And then also just have a drain bucket or something ready to catch all the oil that will shoot out. And always a good practice just to have a warm engine. You can get more oil out and faster that way. So I just drove this car for about a couple minutes and let it idle for a little bit while I was getting it all set up on the lift. But we'll get this off and then we'll start draining the oil. Alright guys, so at this point, we're getting almost down to a drip, but it's a good time to inspect everything else. After you get to about a drip here, make sure to put the drain plug back in. Then also, I was caught a little off guard by this little green gasket. I guess just make sure it's in decent shape. In the past, I've used drain plugs that don't even have this and never had leaks. But yeah, just keep this in mind. And if it's really deteriorating, maybe go get a new one on order. For your oil filter, just basically try to spin it off and pray whoever did it didn't over tighten it and lubed up this gasket. Let's see if we can get it loose. And it's already giving me problems. Okay, if you want to minimize mess too, you can tap a hole in the bottom of this and you can let the oil drain out, but it's up to you. Alright, so at this point, new oil filter is open, and then what we're going to do is we're going to inspect this housing, and we do not have any black gasket material, so we are good to put on our new oil filter. Trust me, you make that mistake only once. If you know, you know. And since we can do it with this one, if you guys watch my other videos in the past, you know we're going to pre-fill that oil filter just a little bit. You guys can argue about that in the comments, but that's just what I always do if I can. And after that, just put a little bit of oil around the gasket, and then just go hand tight with it. You don't need to go as tight as this one was. And after that, we'll get the car back on the ground and show you where to go from there. Alright, so new oil filter is pre-filled and screwed on just hand tight. Perfect. And then, I don't know the torque spec on this, but just go until it stops, and then maybe it's just a little bit more. No need to over tighten these guys. But then after that, just go ahead and put your splash shield back on, and don't forget to do all your bolts, and then we'll get to the next steps. Alright guys, so at this point, let's direct our attention to the oil fill cap, and right next to it, the oil dipstick. So, always on the cap, you're going to find your oil type, which is 5W30. And right here, I have ready, I've got 5 quarts of Pennzoil Ultra Platinum, 5W30. This is a full synthetic oil, and it's got all the best additive packages. But really, on these engines, you want to go 5,000 mile intervals max. You don't want to do anything more than that, because right behind those turbos, or feeding those turbos rather, is oil. And there are little screen filters, which I'll put on screen, no pun intended. And if you run longer intervals, your oil will sludge up, those filters become clogged, and then you can cook your turbo, among many other things that can happen running long oil change intervals. So, rant aside, always, you know what we do, we shake up that oil to get the additives dispersed. And then, this car does hold 5.5 quarts. Let's get filling, and also pop this dipstick so that the oil can vent better and you can get it in there a little bit faster. Alright guys, so to read a Ford dipstick, the side on the left is going to be the low line, or hole, and the hole on the right is going to be the full hole. So you kind of want it to be in between the hash marks when it's warm, but if you have it to the right when it's cold, that's fine. But just make sure that when you do pull the dipstick out, that you wipe off the whole entire thing, that way you don't get any false oil readings. I just dumped in 5 quarts just now, and I'm going to reinsert this and we'll measure it from there. Alright guys, so let me show you what I just pulled out. So we are at the minimum, and then if we flip it around here slowly, you can kind of see where the oil is a little bit better. We are just in between the hash marks, and I did start up the vehicle just to get everything all settled in there. So at this point, I would say we are good. That'll leave it more room to expand in the future. So yeah, we'll consider this a job well done. Alright guys, final step. This is optional, but it's not a bad idea because eventually we'll pop up. But basically, we're going to reset the oil life. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit menu, then you're going to go all the way down to settings, and then just hit OK. Then oil life, then you're going to hold to reset it. Then when you click this again, it'll say it's at 100. And you can also write down the mileage that you did it. That's how I usually do it, but that way you don't have anything pop up. Alright, so that's how you do an oil change on a Ford Escape with the 2-liter EcoBoost. And I checked underneath, there's no leaks coming from the oil filter housing. We can also just kind of look down there and everything is nice and dry. But if this video helped you out, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you like my other videos, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Have a good one, guys.